EVE Online is about working against or with other players from moment to moment. Whether that's fighting over money on the market, racing to get the best scanning sites, fighting one-on-one over a faction warfare site, pushing entire alliances out of a star system, or just blowing up freighters hauling goods in high security space. Competition is the name of the game. I'm Buckland Fondue, and I'm learning my way through the world of EVE Online. I've been working my way through the Air Career program with a bit of sidetracking along the way, like trying to complete the main story in a Bethesda game. But now, I've started the fourth and final piece, PvP. More specifically, in Faction Warfare PvP. The program recommended Faction Warfare as it was one of the goals that was set out for new players to do to complete their PvP track. I'll be joining Amarr because it's obviously one of the game's best empires, and their faction enemy is the worst one, Minmatar. I'm not basing my choice on the current player count in the factions, war zone control, or money that can be made. I'm just choosing the one I find the most interesting. To get signed up, I just opened the Faction Warfare panel. It gave me a very nice UI of the current war zone control of each faction. You can choose to be one of the pirate factions, which is interesting. I'm not sure how they work, like, do you lose security status by joining the pirate faction? Can you no longer enter Empire space? Is your job to attack all four factions and work to stop one faction from dominating? I'm not sure. When you do select the faction you want, it also gives you a brief description of lore, how you'll make money, what to expect, and where you'll be mainly fighting. Knowing full well that I will likely be destroyed numerous times before getting a single kill, I set out to fit a cheap but effective frigate to take out into my first foray into PvP. A helpful tip I picked up early was to focus on a specific thing with your skill points. I knew I was going to be heading into PvP at some point, so I chose my main direction into Amarr frigates. I'm sure there are many incredible guides online to point you in the exact right direction, but who has time for that? I went into the ship tree in the game, found a ship, or at least ship type, clicked show info, mastery level at least 4, and did what it told me for that ship. I went with the Amarr frigate the Tormentor because its ship rolls were more focused on damage and less tank. I figured that if I could kill the other person fast enough, that would be my best defense. I was able to get the cost to fly and fully fit the ship to around 5 million ISK. I figured that was a pretty safe spot to fly it for now. Focusing my skills in a particular direction, I was able to get myself into Tech 2 guns for this ship as well, which gave me a pretty significant jump in damage. A far less range of ammo choices for Tech 2 though. You get your pick of really short range at high damage or really long range, with no in between. Now that I had a ship, and I'd actually bought several of these ships with the exact same fittings and shipped them over to the edge of militia warspace, I was now ready to go. As far as I know at this point in time, the purpose of faction warfare is to control more space than your opponent. To do this, you go into instanced pockets of space by going into a faction warfare complex through an acceleration gate within a system. These sites can range from 10-minute control timer sites such as Scout, which only frigates can enter, to small sites with destroyer size and under, or into 15-minute cooldown timer sites such as Medium for Cruiser, which I'm not sure if it includes battle cruisers, Large for battleships, and Open for anything. You can go into your faction's sites to do a defense control for loyalty points, or into an enemy system site for an offensive control for more loyalty points. If you enter an enemy site, you'll have to fight an NPC equivalent to the size of site you're in. The timer pauses if the enemy is alive. I didn't find they did much damage, but they did have a decent amount of health. I'm glad I went with the higher damage frigate now, just to speed things up. After completing a site, it seems to pay out loyalty points based on the state of the system and I believe the amount of people in doing the site, or perhaps the time you're inside. But the buyout was flexible. The highest one I had received was a scout site, which paid out 18,750 loyalty points for just 10 minutes. According to the internet, a very rough estimation of currency conversion is around 1,000 ISK per loyalty point. This means that one site paid out nearly 19 million ISK for just 10 minutes. Not bad for a less than 2-month-old pilot and a 5 million ISK frigate. While doing a site or even entering a site, I relied heavily on my D-scanner. I think I've got the hang of it at this point. To do a site, I check if there are any scout sites and warp to it to either 70 or 100 kilometers away, because I found out that unlike other acceleration gates, this one can be used up to 100 kilometers away. While in warp, I activate my D-scanner to see if there's anything at all within range, but when I land on site, I reduce the range of my scanner to 1 astronomical unit, which should narrow down anything that pops up on my scanner. So if anything shows up, it should be a person in the site. Once in the site, I kept my scanner distance to 1 AU, which usually let me know if anyone was sitting outside waiting to jump in. And as always, keep your eye on local chat to give you an idea of who's out there. After completing a few sites, I've made more than enough money to pay for anything I'm about to lose, so let's go and see if we can find a fight. Searching around, it was mostly faction ships and the occasional Tech 2 ship, which I didn't want to go after for my first fight. Not long in, though, I came across the ideal situation. A single faction warfare person was in the system. I used my long-range D-scanner to see what they're flying. A Kestrel pops up. After checking show info, I see that it's a missile-based frigate, which means that it will likely try to keep me at range and whittle me down without me even getting close. I'll have to get in close myself quickly if that's the case in this ship. While in warp to the scout site, I reduce my scan radius, and sure enough, the Kestrel is in the scout site. I need to jump in quick and hit approach as fast as I can to have a chance. Quick note, I've never used overheating before, and I've only just learned the skill. All that I know at this point is that it makes your fittings do more of whatever it can do. I jump in, there he is. At this point, my plan is to overheat my afterburner and webs to get on top of him as quickly as possible, and then once in, turn off the overheat on those ones and turn on the overheat on my weapons. Also, I should clarify that my heart is racing at this point. I'm surprised I even managed to click the right buttons. But I did exactly what I had planned for. I overheated my middle slots, got in close, tackled him, turned off overheating on my middle slots, and turned on my high slot overheating. Except my other fittings kept taking damage for whatever reason, even though I turned them off. Well, lesson learned, I guess. I noticed too late and burned out my scrambler. Had the other guy noticed, he could have just warped out. But he didn't. And I won! I was so excited and flabbergasted that I forgot to loot his wreck before running away. I even got paid for a kill. I'm pretty sure it was based on the cost of the other ship. Either way, it felt pretty good. As you can see, I made a ton of mistakes and I have a long way to go. But it was so much fun. Less than 2 months playing and I have officially taken part in PvP and faction warfare successfully. If you're new and hesitant to try, I hope this helps to see that everyone makes mistakes and doesn't hurt to try. But that's it. I did it. I've joined faction warfare and I've gotten a kill. Next step is to join an Amar Faction Warfare Corporation, which I am working on, because something I've also found out is that just like almost everything else in EVE, things are made more complicated. And joining a corporation is too. Well, that's it for me. See you out there.